Hey everybody, it is Josh, aka JK, aka Uncle Josh, aka whatever you want to call me. Introductions are kind of over and done with, but I guess we have a couple of newbies in here. Hi, my name's Josh. I'm the head coach of the Minnesota Mamoswine, your APDL Season 2 champion. And since then, average finish playoff, kind of. I'm here for a post draft kind of breakdown analysis of the brand spanking new Season 5 Minnesota Mamoswines. So, we're going to do a big old breakdown of what we got, where we got them, what they're going to do, kind of cool things. Hopefully not make this video like 4 billion hours long. And I'm going to drop the desktop audio down a little bit more, just so the background music's not overtaking me. Okay, so let's get into it. Draft was amazing. We did such a good job. It was like 4 days long. Everybody was getting picks in. I think there was a day where we had like 40 or 50 picks come in, like just chef's kiss. So great job to everybody in Season 5 here. I'm totally ready to get into this Diamond and Pearl format. I think it's going to be awesome. I'm stoked for the remakes. And without further ado, let's just dive into our team for this season. First and foremost, we have kind of a breakdown of what the picks were. So in this format, we're going back to Generation 4, and we have 2 OU picks, 3 UU picks, and then 5 NU picks. So we're going to kind of go in tier order, not necessarily pick order, because I think that's just how I want to do it. So leading off with our UU picks is our boy Weville, aka Atlas, for this season. Weville is something that before the draft even started, I really, really wanted, just because it was something that hit super hard and was really fast. And speed is something that I think all of my teams in the past have either had good speed but not great speed, or like one or two things that just are good in the speed tier but not necessarily have the oomph behind it to capitalize on having awesome speed stats. Well, Weville is definitely going to be able to use that speed tier, use that 125 base speed along with its 120 base attack, to be able to knock some opponents in the face. Its dark and ice type is real frail, which is definitely something that we're going to have to be conscious of and protect it. It's got some weaknesses, for sure. But I think Weville is a cool fit for our OU pick, for our first OU pick, and something that I really want to use, and I think that we might be able to maybe get some like big kills off of, and be able to revenge kill things, just hit things super hard, and not get outspeed by most things on the field. So that's the Weville set. We can talk about team builders later, but things like Life Orb, Choice Band, Choice Scarf, I don't think I'll ever need it, but there might be a case where we slap one on. Gets priority ice shard, knockoff, pursuit, which will be super important in this format. And I think it's just a really awesome Pokemon that we're going to kind of build our physical offense around. Moving on to our next OU Pokemon, we have Mesprit Northstar. Northstar the Mesprit. Mesprit's awesome. Like, I didn't realize how good the Lake Trio was before we started the draft, but like Mesprit's move pool is just dummy big. It gets a ton of different things, and like the stats kind of speak for itself. It's super well rounded. I can be a whole bunch of different things for me, and the speed stat at 80 is like good but not awful, but not great. It's just kind of right in the middle where a good utility Mon could be. The move pool for attacks is great. I can do things like weather and rain and stealth rocks. And I think it gets screens, gets access to U-turn, and a whole bunch of other like really good utility moves, along with some pretty decent physical and special attacking moves. To where from week to week, I think Mesprit could be a really big wild card. To where my opponents are really going to have to think, okay, is it going to be a defensive Mesprit? Is it going to be specially offensive? Is it going to be bulky? I think there's a lot of different things that I could do with the Mesprit, and that's definitely why I wanted something like this in our second UU spot. Next up, with our first UU pick, is Legion the Steelix. I used Steelix in our double season in season 3, and I absolutely loved it. Now in that format, it's a whole bunch of other things that you have to keep track of, but I think in the singles format, Steelix could shine even more. That base defense of 200 means I really never have to put investment in that defense. I could put it all in HP, I could put it in attack, I could put it in SPDEF and make it just unkillable. The one drawback being like it's slow as dirt, which I totally recognize, but it's got a job to do, and it's going to do it well, and that's kind of Steelix in a nutshell. I think there's some cool things that I can do with it. Just kind of being that really good physical wall with some utility in there. It's going to be my primary rock setter aside Mesprit. And I just think there's not going to be a lot of surprises with Steelix, but I think it's still going to be good enough to where, it's a threat. It's a wall that you have to get through. And if I get in trouble, I can always click Explosion and really destroy people. So, Steelix is cool. I'm really glad we have it. I think it's a great defensive core to build around. So I kind of have on the physical side of the house, we've got Weville as our main physical attacker. We've got Steelix as our main physical defender. Keeping rolling with our UU picks, next up is Ronin, the Hariyama. And whereas Weville is a fast, hard-hitting physical attacker, Hariyama is a bulky, slower physical attacker. Not great defenses, which I totally understand. Base 60 is not great, and the base 50 speed is definitely slow. But 144 HP and 120 attack is nothing to scoff at, and I didn't have to spend an OU pick on getting Machamp. Which is the other premier fighting type, I think, in this format. So I really like what Hariyama gives me. It gets things like Whirlwind and Fake Out, which is super cool. I can run Guts and be able to Fake Out to guarantee my Flame Orb getting procced. And then we can just click things like, Close Combat and Return and, Mach Punch or things like that. And just really, really wreck people. Actually, I don't know if it gets Mach Punch. So, I'll have to look, but Hariyama's job is going to be to click big moves and delete things if I can, and then I can always do crazy shenanigans with Whirlwind, like I said. So I really like what Hariyama does. Again, it's a little bit more straightforward in what it's capable of doing, but I think that's okay. It's thick, it hits hard. With a Guts boost, it can be very scary. And with Thick Fat, I get some good resistances that help out my team in some areas. I have 3 fire weaknesses on the team. But with Thick Fat, I get, 3 resistances to fire as well. Ice I have totally covered, but having that additional thick fat bonus is cool if I ever wanted to run a really tanky Hariyama. So really excited about that UU pick. And then finally, to round out our UUs is Brute the Blastoise. I think Blastoise is super important to this team for a number of reasons. Number one, it's going to be my primary hazard removal. There are not a lot of good rapid spinners in the Diamond and Pearl format, and there's not a lot of good defoggers in the Diamond and Pearl format. So to be able to have one, of the premier rapid spinners, I think is really good. It's a bulky water type, which is always good for draft format. And the stats are nothing to laugh at. Base 100 defense, 105 special defense. So it can be either or, whereas like Steelix is really like honed in on physical defense. Blastoise can be either or. And it's got good special attack to be able to, be able to fight back in instances where I need some offense out of Brute. So, Rapid Spin's great. Bulky Water type is great. It kind of rounds out a core with two of the other starters I drafted. And I think Blastoise is going to be very, very important for me, especially in the weeks where hazards are going to be a thing, and I need to make sure that we get rid of them so that Weville can, not lose a chunk of health every time it switches in, or, some of my other mons don't take that repetitive chip damage. So Blastoise, super important. Really glad we got it, and I'm expecting to really rely on it in a number of matchups. And that's it for kind of like the top half of our team. Now, moving into the NUs, there are some that I really, really like. And then towards the end, kind of like pick number 9 and 10, we really got down to like grasping at straws as far as what the NU picks were good at. So I think like the next 3 are solid mons that I am totally comfortable using, and then the last 2 picks are going to be like very specific role players. So the first NU pick that we have, and something I'm excited to use, is Ion the Manectric. I've already kind of talked about how Weville was a really important pick for me because it's fast and it's that physical attacker. Well, Manectric kind of fills the fast special attacker for our team. It's got base 105 speed and special attack and gets really decent moves, actually. Not having Volt Switch in this format kind of sucks, but I still get things like Discharge and Thunderbolt. It learns Flamethrower and Overheat. Hidden Power is just like a good option for like a 4th move. And then I could do things like, Switcheroo a Choice Scarf, or, there's Thunder Wave or some other status type moves that I could run to really kind of like round out what Manectric does. I'm really excited to have a fast electric type again. I think that's kind of like a bulky water type. You always kind of want a fast electric type. And I think Manectric is definitely, fits the bill for the team. And I think it gets good enough move coverage to be, something that is definitely worth considering bringing every single week. And it can definitely play a role in what we're trying to do. The next NU pick is Vanguard the Meganium. Thinking draft league and thinking like, hey, I want a core to build around. Typically, your type core is like a Fire, Water, Grass core, or like a Dragon, Steel, Fairy core if you're working with Gen 6 and on. Or maybe you want to do like the weird, like I think like Dark, Fighting, and Psychic is also a core. It's a very offensive core, but it's kind of like the type triangle, right? So Meganium is the third of our Fire, Water, Grass core, and it's also a bulky defender style Pokemon. It's got very similar stats to Blastoise, actually, which is kind of cool. Base 100 defense and special defense. Its attack and special attack are very close, which is cool. 80 speed is fine, and then 80 HP, obviously. So it's just a really well-rounded, bulkier, defensive type Pokemon. Grass typing definitely is not the greatest, but it helps to round out the core. Meganium gets screens and aromatherapy to where, toxic or burn or even thunder wave being paralysis everywhere. Getting something like aromatherapy will be really nice. I think it gets aromatherapy. I really should have looked at this before, and I don't want to put my foot in my mouth, so I'm going to actually double check this right now. I'm sorry, this is not what I wanted to do. Yeah, it gets aromatherapy. So being like a bulky cleric that can do some things for my team on the defensive side of things, and then have enough attack investment to be able to, like, shoot an attack off, and we're not feeling like we're just hitting something with a wet noodle. I think Meganium fills a very important role defensively for us, and it can be, like I said, physical or special. Next up, and our third starter and the third kind of core in the Firewater Grass is Scorch the Typhlosion. We've got a Blastoise, we've got a Meganium, now we need a Fire type, and Typhlosion is a great pick, especially in this format. I think it's a steal as an NU pick. I could be wrong. Fire types are generally, the good fire types are usually few and far between. But like, this thing gets Eruption, and I don't think I need to say any more than that. The Blaze ability is awesome for when we get, into the lower health stages where Eruption's not doing as much. But stuff like Fire Blast, Hidden Power, stuff like that. Those are going to be like my main attacking moves. The move pool's not as big as I would have liked, especially on the special side, where his like base 109 special attack is really nice. But he's fast. With 100 base speed, we can put a choice scarf or choice specs on this thing. And really just like fire off moves, and I'm not going to be taking many hits. I'm not going to be like, switching in on a lot of things, and I definitely want to make sure that rocks are taken care of before Typhlosion tries to come in on something. But I think for what it does and what I need it to do, Typhlosion could be a really cool role player on the offensive side. It gets extra sensory. Focus Blast, Hidden Power, obviously, Overheat, Eruption, stuff like that. So, and I can, if I really wanted to, we can run stuff like Substitute, Rest, Sleep Talk. It gets Roar, Will-O-Wisp, and Toxic. So there is some utility in there as well if we really want to get weird with it. Okay, so that's like the top 8. As far as like what we have on the roster. And now, like I said, picks 9 and 10 were really like filling out role players. And I wanted something to complement Steelix on the special side and be another big bulky special wall. And that's kind of where Tone the Mantine comes in. Base 140 special defense is a lot. The rest of its stats are fairly mediocre. It's also got a really big weakness to electric, and that's obviously scary. We do have a bunch of electric resists, which is nice, and like Manectric gets Lightning Rod, so we have a dedicated switch in there. Mantine, it's a defogger, which is the other reason why I grabbed it. Just making sure that I had 2 options to remove hazards. Mantine being weak to rocks is kind of an issue, especially if I want to defog consistently. But it gets, water absorb, and can be something that abuses the rain if we ever go up against somebody that wants to try and run weather. And 80 special attack is fine. Really we're going to be cautious with our Mantine usage. Like I said, it's going to be a role player. It's going to be situationally considered. But I think in the matchups where we could use it, like a Stab, Hidden Power, Flying hits a lot of the big threats in the metagame, which is cool. And we could use Surf or other things like that as our offensive moves on the water side of things. like I said, Mantine's going to be very situational, and I think as a special wall that only has really 1 or 2 weaknesses is pretty neat. I think it's only got 2 weaknesses. Definitely rocks and electric. Yeah, and that's it. It's got 2 immunities. It's immune to water and to ground type moves, which is great because that's kind of where I had some problems, and we'll see the type chart in a minute. But only having 2 weaknesses is great, and being able to be a dedicated special wall when I need it is super nice. So that's Mantine, and then finally to round out the team is Monarch the Persian. And you might be saying, Persian's terrible. Why in the world did you take it? There are 2 specific reasons. Number 1, Persian gets Technician, which is really cool. Base 70 attack is pretty bad for like an attacker Pokemon. But with Technician, I at least have like a pretty respectable attack. Special attack being 65 is also, not bad if we do something like a Nasty Plot and then combine it with Technician. I know that's a lot to try and make Persian offensive, but really it's there for more of its utility and its speed more than anything. Base 115 is really nice as a speed tier, and Persian's move pool is like surprisingly good. We get Toxic, we get Taunt, there's Switcheroo, U-turn definitely, so it can be a Scout. We can Roar after setting up Stealth Rocks from another Pokemon. Oh gosh, it gets Knockoff, Fake Out, stuff like that. And there's just like a little bit of utility in what Persian can bring. It's definitely not going to be like the kill leader on the team. It's not going to be something that I'm like, oh my god, I need Persian for this matchup. But for the games that I decide to bring it, it could be like a nice surprise factor, a good scout, a good lead, a good utility role kind of pivot player. And having like a fast U-turn is something that we definitely needed. And Persian is like a fine pick for this. It was my last pick. We were like way down into the draft. The options were not great that were left. And Persian was just kind of like, yeah, I think we can make like a 10 out of 10 pick, make it work, and 10, I should clarify, 10 rounds out of 10, make that pick work, and just have a cool role player on the team. So that's everybody right here. So this is our team for the start of season 5. Weville, Mesprit, Steelix, Hariyama, Blastoise, Manectric, Meganium, Typhlosion, Mantine, and Persian. I think this is a pretty well-rounded team. I don't think I get an A+ by any stretch of the imagination. I think we did fairly well in the draft. There might be some people that disagree with me, and that's fine. That's their prerogative. But I think overall we did a really good job of covering our bases, getting the role players that we needed, having some big threats. And being able to put ourselves in, definitely in contention to be a favorite for Division 4 out of the 4 teams that we are. I haven't seen, we haven't done power rankings yet, so we haven't talked about where people actually landed. But I feel really good about our division and about where I line up against those teams. And I really want to make a push for a deep playoff run. We switched up the format a little bit to where everybody makes the playoffs, which is super cool. We get more teams involved late into the season. But I really want to make a push for definitely top 8, definitely top 4. We want to make semis for sure, and I would love to win this season again, especially with a cool format like this. So this is the team. If you want to dive in a little bit more, we can kind of talk about the type chart and our stat breakdown. So first off, let's talk about stats. We have pretty good distribution across the board on what we're looking at as far as the team is concerned. There is not a lot of red out there, which is something that I really wanted to make sure that we were good on. I didn't want low stats in a ton of different places. Whereas like, okay, you know, Hariyama is a great example where we've got 2 really high stats and then 4 really low stats. I didn't want that on more than just a handful of Pokemon. And Persian is, you know, it's fine. It was like my last pick. Speed is what I really want out of that, so the rest of the stats don't really matter. But, you know, having Hariyama with big, fat, bulky HP is cool. Our physical attackers, definitely Weville, Mesprit, and Hariyama all fit the bill really, really well. We might be able to kind of sneak in, you know, a Persian maybe. You know, if you're not expecting it, probably not, but you never know. You know, Steelix has enough attack to be, you know, generous, not generous, to be like somewhat dangerous if I invest a bunch into it. And then, you know, Blastoise, Meganium, Typhlosion, they've all got attack stats in the 80s, which is fine. On the defensive side, I'm really well set up. Steelix with that base 200 is like the best, I think, wall, as long as we stay away from water types. But to help with that, we've got Blastoise, we've got Meganium, we've got Mesprit. All are really great options if Steelix can't be that physical wall. I've got a lot of flexibility in my defense. You know, Meganium, Mesprit, and Blastoise all could be physical defense or special defense if I needed it to, and Mantine obviously is that special wall. On the special attacking side, you know, Mesprit, again, super utility, super flexible in what I can do. And then Manectric and Typhlosion both kind of have like that special attacker role pretty well defined. And then, like I said, Blastoise, Meganium, even Mantine kind of have some you know, special attacking options. They're not going to be like, hey, I'm going all in on a Blastoise offense this week. But it could be there if we absolutely needed it. This is definitely the special attackers I'm not super deep on. But, you know, the ones that we have, I like, and we have some flexibility. On the special defensive side, again, you know, Mesprit, obviously, Blastoise, Meganium, Mantine. We kind of talked about this already. And then in the speed tiers, this is where I really like kind of how we landed. We've got 125, 115, 105, and 100. So 4 different Pokemon above 100 for speed, 2 less than 65. So Steelix and Hariyama are definitely terrible in the speed tiers, but they make up for it in their attack and defense stats. And then, you know, Mesprit, Meganium, both at 80. Respectable speed. They're not going to win any races, but respectable. Mantine's definitely slow, on the slower side with 70, and Blastoise at 78 is fine. So I think we did fairly well with stat distribution. And then as far as like the type chart is concerned, this is another area where I think we did pretty dang well. I have a ton of resists all over the map here. And no like real big holes. You know, definitely if we're looking at here, I have 3 fire resists because of the 3 weaknesses, which is great. I have more resists on most of these columns than the weaknesses. The one exception being, you know, fighting type is still kind of a problem for me. Also, we're really weak to ground in a lot of different places, but we do have 2 immunities. And 1, you know, good resist with Meganium. The other spot that I'm a little not so fond of is in the rock department. You know, we're +1 on the total weak to rocks. So definitely like stealth rocks are going to suck against me again this season. But we've got, I think, one of the premier spinners in Blastoise. Mantine gets defog, like I said. So we have some ways to get around it. Not having heavy duty boots sucks, but I don't have like major weaknesses to where I need to run boots every single week. Like, you know, Charizard last season. I don't have something that's going to lose 50% of its HP every time it switches in. We've got a couple of 25%ers, which sucks, but for the most part, we can switch into rocks and take that chip and not be like, oh my god, where did my health go? But we have some answers to stealth rocks. So And if you've got a steel type, come at me, bro, because man, we are covered in steel and ice. Like, bring it on. So yeah, that's the team for this season and for this year. I'm really happy with how the draft went and how things are kind of shaken out. And I think we have a really good chance at making a deep playoff push. Like I said, don't think the roster's perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But I think we did a really good job of setting ourselves up for at least like a good week one. And then we'll kind of take it from there. Definitely we'll look to maybe make some trades, make some free agent switches again this season. We're not going to save all of those roster moves until the very end like we did in some of the earlier seasons. I think last season and season 4 we did a really good job of using those moves when I could to kind of improve our standing, improve our roster. But I think, so far so good as far as the Minnesota Mamoswines are concerned. So thanks so much for watching and for supporting us. And we hope that this season is another great one. So thanks so much. Take care. Go Mamoswines.